Yesterday, I played a chess match here on the channel where a single bishop move cost me the entire game. After one move, I was losing. There was almost no way I could come back from it. And immediately after that game, I was a little bit tilted, so I played the game that we're going to look at today. This game is what actually pushed me to the 794 ELO rating, so I am very close to 800. I know I'm harping on it in every video, but I'm excited, damn it. And so today I thought we would use the classroom tool once again to analyze this game, take a look at it, and have some fun breaking down what happened. So let's get started. Obviously, you know me, we're opening up with the Vienna here. Not a standard opening for black in this position, at least not one that I'm used to seeing when I open with the Vienna, so that's okay. I did end up moving my A3, or my A pawn to A3. The idea being that I'm going to be able to stop the knight from jumping in over here and getting that pesky little fork that sometimes happens. It wasn't a risk. It wasn't something that I should have done. In this position, I actually should have just moved my D pawn up to D4. You want to have two pawns in the middle of the board. So this was kind of a PTSD move, a move that I did because I didn't want to get forked later in the game. And it also does help for queenside castling if I decide to do that a little bit later. But we're jumping very far ahead. My opponent here moving up, building a bit of an extra pawn layer, an extra depth pawn layer of protection, or so he believes that's what's going to happen. Now pushes up. What a strange waste of a move from my opponent here. You know, one pawn move, another pawn move. There's been no development of any of the premium pieces. There's not a lot of control happening to the middle of the board here. And my response to this, you know, if he's going to take here, I can take with the knight, so I'm just going to develop my knight. This square is still going to be protected, the e4. So doing that, he's now opening up this pawn. You can see the evaluation bar here is like, I don't know what's going on with this guy. We are 5 moves in, and the game is not looking good for our friend Swapan Bahaumik. I don't know how to say any of these names. I'm very sorry. Chess.com names should be studied because these people come up with, I don't know. There's too many consonants and vowels immediately beside each other in ways that my brain cannot comprehend. Anyways, this guy is, I don't know why I go in these tirades sometimes, but I do. So he decides to now develop his bishop. Again, these are just like weird moves in my opinion. Sometimes you get these players who are just doing stuff that is kind of strange, and it's allowing for me to have a lot of development early on in the game, which I really appreciate because now I'm able to move this pawn up, so it's less likely that I'm going to be castling kingside, but I'm protecting this pawn twice with my knight and my rook. I've also got a line on here, so this bishop, after moving out, even before this pawn move happened, he couldn't go here or here. He could have gone here, except the knight was already protecting. So this entire line was already being looked at. Yes, he is protecting it with his bishop, but there's not a lot he can do. He can't go here, here, here. He can't go anywhere. This was the only move he could move with his bishop. He put it there, but now his queen is locked in and his queen needs to go in other weird spots. To me, doesn't make a lot of sense. Don't do what this guy did in the opening, and then he moves backwards. So I decide to develop my dark bishop. Makes a lot of sense. We're going to, you know, we're covering this entire line anyways to begin with, but I like the idea that if anything happens to this pawn, let's say the knight's not going to develop at all. Let's say queen for whatever reason or something. I'm just developing my pieces. This guy is so locked in. We are 8 moves in and he hasn't moved a single piece off of the back rank. It's insane. He finally decides to develop a knight. The knight is attacking some squares that really have no relevance to the current position. So I decide to just push a pawn up. Hey, why not push a pawn up? If I'm able to get to this position, his pawn takes, I can take. I've still got a pawn protecting here in case the rook decides to come out. I'm then I'm actually triple protecting when the bishop is here. 1, 2, 3 protecting pieces on the h4 square. So again, feeling pretty good, just improving my position when the opportunity arises. And now my opponent does decide, ooh, I'm going to attack. The one piece that I've developed is going to get involved here, attacking 3 of my squares. Of these 3 squares, the bishop is the only one that is vulnerable, and so I decide to dip back. Now, was this the best move? I don't actually think so. Bishop to e3 was actually better in this position, but bishop to d2 was the next best. So this actually wasn't a great position. It doesn't affect the evaluation bar. There's probably better things to do just because you have more influence over the board if you stay on this diagonal as opposed to sneaking away over here. So could have done something a little bit different there. That's okay. We are still protecting this h4 square with 3 pieces. So at least this section of the board is very well protected right now. I decide to push this pawn up, threatening the knight, which is going to force him to either move, get taken, move, get taken, move, get taken, or taken. He does have 3 attackers currently on this piece, but if he was to move, I can take, he takes, I take, he takes, I take. So I'm still over defending these positions on the board. At least it feels like I'm doing a pretty good job of it. He retreats completely, so he now is back to having a single developed piece. Every other premium piece is on his back rank. I decide, okay, well now I'm going to threaten this bishop. There's really no reason not to. He decides to take, I decide to take with my rook. The reason I decided to take with my rook as opposed to my knight is I didn't like the idea of having my knight here attacking some squares that really aren't going to be of any consequence to me. This light squared bishop is not going to be able to attack or threaten this position at all. This position here, if he pushes the pawn, is going to be irrelevant to the knight, and I'm just going to have to go back to where I was before. But now I'm protecting this piece, so if he takes, I could take, he takes. There's a few other options, at least from my perspective. I think in the best position here, knight should have taken, but I took it with the rook. I'm still protected even if the queen takes. I get it. I also did in the moment, I'm actually just realizing this in real time and remembering, my thought was this might be juicy enough for him to blunder taking it, because you see a rook that is hanging, but it's not hanging because the knight is protecting it. So that was another kind of idea. Sometimes I like to play those mind games where it works out in my favor. I get the bishop for free, but it also works out in my favor if the opponent has kind of a human error moment and just greedily jumps on a piece that they think is free for the taking. So he's now developing the other knight on the queen side of the board. I move my bishop over, the light square bishop that wasn't doing anything, and actually engage it on the same kind of diagonal that the dark square bishop was on, just kind of halting any of the development from this knight. He pushes up. He's now on c5, threatening this pawn in the middle of the board. I decide, you know what? Instead of worrying about taking this, I'm gonna pin this knight to the queen. That means that if I take here, he's not gonna be able to take. If he takes here, I can move this knight over, which does leave the rook hanging. These are just some of the things that I was, visually looking at or thinking of. I also have a protection on this bishop with the knight, so that feels pretty good. This was not a good position though, even though I'm still at over 50% according to the evaluation bar. In this position, I should have done knight to b5. So I actually should have swapped knight to b5, threatening something, maybe this position right here. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Knight to b5, protected by the pawn, putting the king into check and having a fork on the bishop, and the king could only move up. There's no way for the it would actually be a forced move up, and then I could do some other funky stuff. I don't know exactly what I would look at after that move, but that's why they wanted me, the engine wanted me to move that position. The pawn comes over here, threatening my bishop. My bishop needs to move backwards. Now I'm at a below 50% according to the evaluation bar. This bishop moves, I move down, he comes over here to take, and this is where I trapped my own bishop. It wasn't a great feeling, I didn't love it. I obviously could have moved back, and that probably was the position that the evaluation bar wants me to take, B to A2, exactly. So bishop to A2 is the best move in this position. I kind of thought, you know what, if the king is stuck here in the middle, there hasn't been a lot of development, it's worth trying to open this up just a little bit. But you can see that this wasn't the right idea. This actually flips everything over. I don't know if it was considered a blunder or a mistake, but it completely flips the evaluation into the favor of my opponent. Even moving the queen over doesn't make a lot of sense because I can't take. The pawn is going to be a problem still. So now he moves his knight in. I move my queen up. I'm looking at a slightly better position with my queen, just covering some of this area in case his queen comes out. I could go for a trade of some sort, potentially, maybe. Trade doesn't make a lot of sense because I'm down on material, but in the moment of a chess game, sometimes you don't have the clearest of thoughts. That's why I'm learning. That's why I'm still practicing. So I decide to threaten this pawn. If he takes, I have two defenders on here. So if he takes, I take with the knight. That'll feel pretty good. If the queen decides to retaliate, I take with my queen, and now I'm kind of even closer to being a threat to his king. We've only got, I think, 10 more moves in this game. So after he castles, this is a huge blunder for my opponent. So we can see there's a lot of stuff happening king side of the board. I've got a knight, I've got a rook, I've got my queen, I've got some pawns really far advanced onto the board. And for whatever reason, my opponent decides I should probably castle onto the side of all of the dangerous things happening. So he does that, it's a blunder, and now I am full force, let the pawn take. This is open, still defended. If he takes, it is getting rid of two pawns for the price of one on his defensive side. The structure that was there is completely obliterated by a single pawn, and so he decides to push up, putting a bit of pressure on my rook. I decide to just take with the knight. I'm still protected by my queen. That's perfect. If he decides to take, I can take. And then when he pushes up with his pawn, I'm able to actually counterattack with the king. Now the king can take, but if the king actually can't take. Right, that's the reason I did it, because the king cannot take here. The king has to move over to one of these squares. It's actually either the G7 or the H8 square. These are the only safe squares for him right now. He does do that pushing up, and I could have in this position, so I actually put him into check again with the king, and this is a fork on the rook and the queen. So this was a great fork that I spotted, a three-way fork, let's call it a menage a trois. It's such a stupid joke, but I accept that I make stupid jokes sometimes. After that, his king moves over again. Now in this position, I could have put him into check with the queen. Sorry, not the queen, but the pawn protected by the rook. That would mean that he could move up here. In theory, he wouldn't be able to attack the knight or anything like that, but in theory, he could have moved up here, which would have been the forced move in this position. And then I would have to, you know, jump out of the way, maybe get involved over here. Something would have to happen. So it was, I believe, in this position, next move, so he moves up and then knight takes e6. That was the best position here. And then after he moves his king over, I take the queen for free. The queen didn't move once this entire match, and it died a pitiful, pathetic death. He takes with the rook. I am now going to get closer to the king. So I'm not defending by my queen right now. I believe this is the best move in the position, moving the queen over. And right here, if I move over, I put him into check, forcing him to move down or over with his king on the next move. And he's just moving like an inconsequential bishop, just doing nothing over here. Maybe could have done something like this. Maybe could have preemptively moved over here with the rook. There are way better options. Actually, let's have a look at, in this position, he should move king to e7. So he should move over here so that if I put him into check here, he has a getaway this direction. Could also rook to f8. Rook to f8 seems interesting. I would maybe do rook to g8 in this position, but I understand that here he was just trying to move the bishop so he could connect the rooks. But as soon as I put him back into check, he moves this direction. I'm able to put him into check again. he moves down instead of up. So I think he should have moved up. Yeah, he should have moved to e6. He could have moved, he couldn't move here actually because of the pawn. So e6 was the other option. As soon as he moved down, I knew that I could promote my pawn. My pawn promotes into a queen. He is going to move the knight over. I'm going to take and seal the deal with a laddered checkmate, promoted pawn into queen. This was a fun game. I ended up playing at like an 82 or 84, I think 82% accuracy this game. My opponent played at a 70% accuracy, but just not developing really cost him. Only moving a knight in the first 5 or 8 moves, not pushing a lot of the center of the board. It was kind of an uphill battle for him from the very beginning. But like I said at the beginning of this video, this game pushed me to 794 elo. So I am 1 win away from hitting 800 elo. I hit 700 last week. So this is crazy to me that I'm 1 game away from cracking another milestone on chess.com. I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to playing that game here on the channel for you. So if you're interested in seeing that, you're new to the channel, definitely subscribe. I upload a new chess video here every single day. If you enjoyed the breakdown of this chess match and had a good time hanging out with me, then definitely like the video as well. Helps me out. I would really appreciate it. One other thing that I haven't promoted on the channel before, but I might as well start doing it every once in a while, is I have a website called everythingsucksupply.com. It's just a website where I illustrate and sell some stickers. They're just like fun little doodles and stuff that I put together. I keep them as cheap and affordable as possible, but it is a way to support me and get something cool in return if you're so inclined. But with all of my shilling out of the way, I love you, I appreciate you, I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in tomorrow's upload. Peace.